If you want to know which S-Class and A-Class characters are actually worth your investment in Neverness to Everness, this tier list breaks down the strongest picks for endgame content like the Beyond the Rails Anomaly Zone. We're focusing on how these characters perform when things get serious, looking at their damage, utility, and overall value instead of just judging them by how good they feel in easier content. And of course, the NTE meta is always changing, so a character that looks amazing today might have some competition after the next version drops. That's why I'll keep updating this tier list with every new NTE version, adding new characters and moving existing ones around whenever the meta changes. So let's jump in and see which S-Class and A-Class characters are dominating the current endgame, and which ones might not be quite as impressive as they first seem. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking characters in Neverness to Everness. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Mint and Edgar. At the bottom of the list, we have two characters who really seem to be asking, is this all I get? First up is Mint, who pretty much does exactly what you would expect from a starter character. She shows up, deals some low damage, and then quietly reminds you that better options exist. There is nothing particularly bad about her, but there is also nothing that makes her stand out, so she ends up sitting comfortably in C tier. Mint can certainly help you get started, but once you have access to stronger characters, you will probably have very little reason to keep her around. Then we have Edgar, and honestly, things get a little more interesting here. Edgar is actually a solid healer who can provide healing to the entire team during combat, which is definitely useful when things start getting messy. The problem is that healing is basically his entire personality. He does not bring much else to the table, and in Neverness to Everness, simply keeping everyone alive is not always enough to compete with characters who can heal while also providing additional utility or damage. So while Edgar can be helpful in the right situation, his limited role keeps him down in C tier. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Skia, Haniel, Vedia, and Adler. Skia is one of those characters who looks absolutely terrifying when he is fighting, but unfortunately, the damage numbers do not always match the fashion. His Fang Thrust stacking mechanic takes some practice, and you need to get comfortable managing those stacks if you want to squeeze out his real potential. Once you finally get the hang of his kit though, Skia can actually compete with other main damage dealers in Neverness to Everness. So for now, he lands in B tier as a main damage Esper. Haniel is a bit of a former champion in this list. Before Roy arrived, she was one of the best damage amplifiers you could bring to pretty much any team, especially if you were playing free-to-play. But now that Roy can provide stronger damage amplification while also bringing sustain to the team, Haniel has lost some of her old spotlight. She is still a very good free-to-play option and definitely not a bad character to have, but she is no longer the must-have support she once was, which is why she has moved down to B tier. Vedia, meanwhile, is doing several jobs at once, and that is exactly what makes her both useful and slightly complicated. She works as an off-field damage dealer, while also providing a shield for the team, but her kit requires you to pay attention because she redirects damage to herself and then needs to heal herself afterward. On top of that, she deals mental damage, which works nicely with her passive that boosts the Nova Esper cycle. The catch is that she cannot actually speed up the team's cycles, leaving her just a step behind some of the stronger options in this tier. And finally, we have Adler, who takes the classic "I brought a shield, but I also brought a little extra" approach. He provides a shield for the team and adds some damage over time, making him particularly useful in damage over time teams that rely on the Scorch and Discord elemental reactions. He is not exactly turning the battlefield upside down, but his defensive utility combined with that extra damage makes him a dependable support. Overall, Adler is a solid choice, especially for the right team composition, although he does not quite have enough impact to climb into the higher tiers. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Chiz, Baikang, Hathor, Daffodil, and Ju Yuan. Chiz is starting to feel the effects of the Neverness to Everness power creep, and unfortunately, she cannot dodge it forever. As more main damage dealers join the roster, her damage is looking less impressive compared to the newest characters. That does not mean Chiz suddenly became bad though. She is still one of the strongest damage dealers in the game, but the newer characters are simply operating on another level when it comes to raw damage. Because of that growing competition, Chiz is moving down from S tier to A tier. Baikang, on the other hand, has plenty of reasons to stay near the top. He is a strong main damage dealer who can fit into practically any team that needs an incantation character, and his flexibility only gets better when you consider future teams with characters like Skia, Fadia, and Lacrimosa. His ability to deal damage over time also makes him a great partner for characters such as Sakiri, one of the strongest characters in Neverness to Everness. He may not completely dominate every team, but his versatility and strong damage make Baikang a very reliable A-tier main damage esper. Hathor is where things get spicy, because once she casts her ultimate, her damage output becomes seriously impressive. She is an excellent sub DPS, and her passive is especially valuable because it can extend the duration of Remora to up to 12 seconds. This gives her or her teammates plenty of time to take advantage of the charge Esper reaction. Her biggest problem is keeping that ultimate ready every rotation. You either need a full charge team to help her recover it consistently, or another damage dealer to cover the downtime while she waits for it to come back. Despite that small headache, Hathor's damage and utility are strong enough to make her an S-tier sub DPS. Daffodil has also fallen victim to the classic new character just showed up and ruined everything problem. Before Lacrimosa arrived, she was the only Chaos character available in Neverness to Everness, and that gave her a pretty special place in the roster. She already had solid damage and could improve team rotations, which was enough to earn her an S rank. Unfortunately for Daffodil, Lacrimosa brings a much higher damage ceiling to the table, making her old position harder to justify. She is still a strong character, but the competition has finally pushed Daffodil down into A tier. And then there is Juyuan, who has mastered the art of being useful even when she is not the one standing in the spotlight. She allows her team to spam via buds during combat while also applying a huge amount of damage over time whenever Vita Pistols hits enemies, giving her impressive off-field damage. What makes Juyuan especially valuable is that she does not just sit in the background and deal damage. Her utility actively supports the team at the same time. Her on-field damage is not exactly breaking any records, but her off-field performance and supportive abilities make her a fantastic A-tier sub-DPS in Neverness to Everness. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Zanku, Dou, Shinku, Chaos, Nanali, Lacrimosa, Hotori, Zero, Iroi, and Sakiri. Zankou is the kind of character who basically refuses to work unless you build the entire team around her, but once you do, she makes that investment look completely worth it. Her insane crit value lets her explode onto the field with huge damage, while also taking DOT focused teams to another level. Her basic skill and ultimate attacks can all hit extremely hard, so once Zankou gets going, enemies are basically left wondering why they bothered showing up. With that combination of personal damage and team synergy, Zankou easily earns her place in S tier. Shinku follows a similar philosophy. Give her the right teammates and let her do the damage. She relies heavily on her team to maintain charge reactions, and when those reactions are active consistently, her damage output jumps dramatically. The good news is that you do not need an extremely expensive team to make this work, since Shinku has an F2P friendly setup that can still bring out her full potential. That combination of huge damage and accessible team building makes her an S tier main DPS in Neverness to Everness. Chaos, meanwhile, is not here to negotiate. This character is an absolute monster when it comes to damage, especially with enhanced Remora. His kit works extremely well with characters who can boost enhanced Remora, allowing Chaos to turn that ability into a massive nuke against basically anything standing in front of him. When a character can make enemies disappear before they have time to complain, you know the S tier placement is probably justified. Chaos makes his debut at the very top of the list. Nanali proves that you do not always need a complicated game plan to be ridiculously strong. When her skill and ultimate are active together, she gains access to some of the best damage in Neverness to Everness, and the best part is that you do not need to build some kind of rotation spreadsheet just to use her properly. Her gameplay is straightforward, her damage is excellent, and she gets the job done without making you work overtime. That simplicity combined with her incredible damage makes Nanali an S tier main DPS. Lacrimosa barely steps into the roster and immediately starts acting like she owns the place. She is an incredible main DPS, but she can also work as a sub DPS alongside characters like Baikang who need plenty of field time themselves. Her high damage and flexibility allow her to become the centerpiece of a team's rotation, while the rest of the team continuously triggers Nova and Scorch around her. This makes it much easier to trigger Discord repeatedly, and that consistent reaction gameplay is a huge part of why Lacrimosa performs so well. She is an easy S-tier addition. Hotori is basically the definition of why choose one role when you can do everything. She works as a strong sub-DPS while also providing valuable support for the team, and once she activates her ultimate, she gets a very impressive window where her own damage shoots up. That combination of damage, utility, and flexibility makes her one of the best Cosmos characters you can bring into a team. She may not be doing just one job better than everyone else, but she does several jobs extremely well, which is more than enough for an S-tier sub-DPS. Zero is probably one of the friendliest characters for F2P players, especially because you can obtain their entire build for free, including their day off arc. On top of that, Zero brings the Cosmos element and can instantly fill the cycle gauge, making them an excellent match for Lakshana and Anima characters. They can even provide a little healing for the team, because apparently Zero decided that doing damage and supporting the team was not enough. With all that value packed into an accessible character, Zero comfortably earns an S-tier spot as a sub-DPS. Iroi is the universal support you bring when you look at your team and think, I wish this character could do everything. She can heal, revive allies, buff the team, reduce enemy defense, and even control enemies with her skill. In other words, Iroi has an answer for almost every problem you can throw at her. Her only real weakness is a small rotation delay, since she needs to stay on the field and attack for a while to refill her Esper cycle. Outside of that minor inconvenience, Iroi is an incredibly complete support and absolutely deserves her S-tier ranking. And finally, Sakiri is the character you want when your entire game plan revolves around triggering the Scorch Esper cycle. She has two jobs and she takes both of them very seriously, grouping enemies together and increasing the damage over time they receive. That combination makes it much easier for the rest of the team to take advantage of dirty-focused gameplay, while also making every enemy conveniently stand in one place and suffer together. With that level of synergy and utility, Sakiri is an easy S-tier character in Neverness to Everness. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.